How's it going, everybody? Severance Season 2, Episode 8. This one unpacked a lot. Even though we focused on just one character, on Harmony Cobel, just like we did in the last episode, we focused on Gemma, a whole bunch of Lumon lore was dropped in this one. In an episode a while back, we saw Miss Cobel driving to Salt's Neck, and then she looks in her backseat and she sees the respirator or the mouthpiece with the tube that she had at her house from Charlotte Cobel, and decided to make a U-turn and turn around. This episode, we find out where she went and why. After what happened with Lumon, she was ready to flee, but something changed her mind. She turns around and heads to the town she grew up in, the town she went to school at, the Myrtle Egan School for Girls. Speaking of Myrtle Egan, I always thought Myrtle Egan kind of looked like Cobel. So I don't know if there's like some relation there or what. Like, how deep does this go? Anyway, she heads to the town and she gets a call from Devin. I thought the call didn't go through. I mean, we see Devin click the call, but I didn't think it went through. But it was just that Cobel ignored it. She didn't pick it up. And this happens a few times in the episode where Devin is trying to get in contact with Cobel because, I mean, we talked about this. Ragabi left, pretty much leaving Devin no choice because she has no clue what she's doing. Decides to call Cobel. We'll get back to that at the end of the episode. So anyways, Cobel heads to the local diner and she sits down and the waiter comes over. The way she's talking to the waiter, you know something is up. Turns out they're childhood friends and this guy's name is Hampton. And she needs a favor. He's completely hesitant. He doesn't want to do it, but it seems like she has some pull over, some leverage over him, or he owes her something, or maybe it's just the fact that Cobel has a higher standing at Lumon than him. He's hesitant, doesn't want to do it, but he eventually agrees to meet her at the Lumon Industries factory in the town. They go over there and she asks him for a ride to meet this Sissy. We don't know who this is. Again, he's hesitant. He doesn't want to go. He's like, she's a pariah. She doesn't want me there. I don't want to be there. I'm not going. But again, he eventually agrees and he takes Cobel. Remember, Cobel's on the run from Lumon. And so she's hiding at the back of the trunk. She gets another call from Devin, ignores it. And the fact that she's hiding in the back of this pickup truck is crazy in and of itself. It shows the purview of Lumon. If they've been watching her house, they know what her car looks like, so therefore she needs a ride, and they're watching her, so she's hiding in this guy's pickup truck. But it's just, Lumon is crazy. So Cobel goes into the house, and you meet Sissy. You find out Sissy's name is actually Celestine Cobel. So now you're thinking, who is this, right? Maybe it's Cobel's aunt, Harmony Cobel's aunt. We do know that she was the apprentice warden. And this is the town that Cobel grew up in, the town that she went to school at, the Myrtle Egan School for Girls. But this is the house Cobel grew up in. And this is the house her mom, Charlotte, died. Now we know the mouthpiece, the tube, everything, all that stuff in the back of the car that she had at her house belonged to her mom. And she died over here. And we find out the mom was not a big fan of Kier. She did not like Kier. And Sissy is a devout Kier worshiper. Dude, this whole Kier Egan stuff, it is a cult. We thought it was a cult before, but after this episode, it is like a hardcore cult. So Cobel comes. I'm just gonna call her Cobel. The reason why she wanted to come here is she was looking for something. And she wants the key to her mom's room. She runs upstairs. She's looking all over the place because Sissy didn't want to tell her. And she's looking all over the place to find this key. She finally finds it, goes to the room, opens the door, enters, and it's the bed that her mom died in. And Cobel needs time to grieve. She plugs in the tube into the respirator, lays in bed, puts it into her mouth, and is crying. It's like she's breathing her woe into this thing. Time is passing, lady. I get you're crying. I get you're grieving. This dude Hampton is so nice. He's literally standing outside and sitting in his car in the cold all day. Cobel fell asleep on the bed. he ended up barging into the house to try and get her because he's freezing out there, right? So he comes in, they sit on the bed, and then Harmony's like, I have to find this. I have to find it. But before they do, they have this sweet scene on the bed. They're reminiscing. They're thinking back about their childhood. They both grew up here. They were both indoctrinated by Lumon, by the Egans. They both kissed. And that factory, that Lumon Industries factory, they were talking about, they got high, right? And they were like, she was like, the last time I did this, I was 8 years old, and they're both laughing. And then Hampton made a joke like, all right, you ready to have a 10-hour ship at the factory? Like that's why Hampton didn't want to go to the factory. It brought up bad memories. The Lumon used child labor. They used these kids that were in these Lumon schools, these Egan schools, as child labor. 10-hour shift at the vat? Come on now. So they have this bond that you're not going to get with anybody else because they both grew up in this messed up environment. And that explains why he's willing to help Cobel, even though he didn't really want to come to this house and go to the factory and all that stuff. And I think it was Hampton who tells her, it's not going to be in this room. What you're looking for is not going to be here. And so Cobel gets a realization of where it might be. They both get up, they leave the room, they leave the house, they go outside, they go to the shed that's by the house. Cobel goes inside, she rummages around through there, and she finds this bust of James Egan that seems to be awarded to Cobel for finishing the Wintertide Fellowship, the same fellowship that Huang is currently in on the 7th floor at Lumon with Mr. Milchick. She opens up the bottom, checks, and she sees this booklet over there, and that's what she's looking for. She goes inside and confronts Sissy and tells Sissy, don't tell anybody about this. Don't tell Lumon about this. I'm leaving right now. And Sissy, being the devout follower of Keir Egan, was like, yeah, I'm not lying. I'm not covering any of this stuff. I'm telling them, they're coming to me. I'm telling them everything. And then Cobel retaliates and says, you don't owe Lumon anything. You were in this town before Lumon was even here. And then Sissy says, there was no town. Before that Lumon factory, this town was nothing. And that's where Cobel decides to drop the bomb. And dude, Cobel opens up the booklet. And there's all these plans and blueprints and ideas. All these designs. Cobel is responsible for the Glasgow block, for the overtime contingency, for all these other projects. Cobel is not just a manager of the severed floor. She knows a lot of stuff, and now you understand why Lumon is after her. They can't have her being a rogue agent. She knows way too much. Without Cobel, Lumon would not be where it is today. And it just adds so much more to the finale of season 1. Like, she was recognizing the overtime contingency. She was recognizing what she programmed, what she designed, what she did, what she created. She was recognizing it happening in real time. And that must have been surreal for her. And Sissy takes the booklet and is looking through the pages and looking at the designs, and she's just astonished because all these years, people thought it was James Egan that invented all of these things. No. It was Cobel. But she didn't take credit. She never took credit because she thought, that whole Keir ideology, the knowledge is for all. So I don't need to put my name, I don't need to put my stamp on information because it should be out there. But James Egan's name is on it. But they don't think like that because it's a cult. They feel like they need to bow down, praise all the Egans and worship, owe everything to the Egans. Calm down, people, man. That's the other thing. They literally are brainwashing these kids. They're getting these kids from childhood. They're using these schools. And then, I don't know, they're like melting their brains with manual labor and then teaching them all this. I don't know what they're doing, honestly. That's another interesting thing I'm curious about. What are they doing with these kids? What is the curriculum in these schools for these kids? What are they preparing these kids for? Because the Egans saw something in Harmony Cobel. They saw something special. And clearly she is very smart and they did utilize her brain. But what things are they looking out for? Like, did they see the scientific mind that Cobel had and they were like, yeah, we need this for the future of Lumon? Because it seems like Severance is a huge factor in the future of Lumon. And so did they know that all those years ago? What is the trajectory of Lumon? How far ahead have they planned? Like at the start of this cult, like what is the ideology? What is the goal? What are they trying to achieve? And did they understand the means of achieving that goal back then when Harmony was in school or not? I mean, these questions, I guess, will get answered as the show goes on. But now take this information and then tie it to, remember when Bert was talking about how he was severed 10 years ago, and then Fields was like, wait, it was 20 years ago because blah, 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 blah. And then Bert later had to make the correction and say, the Lumon procedure only came into existence 12 years ago. But was Bert actually severed 20 years ago? Were they able to do this 2 decades ago? That's what I'm saying. What is Lumon's end goal and how long have they known how to get there? So anyway, Sissy is going through this book and then comes to the realization that, yeah, this notebook can't be out there because it is a threat to Lumon. And I am a devout Keir Egan follower. And so she tries to burn all the evidence and throw it in the fire. But thankfully, Cobel stops her, grabs it, and they leave. She leaves, gets into Hampton's truck, and then leaves town. Hampton waits there because you have these Lumon representatives coming, and he's just standing there to meet him. Lumon is scared. The Egans are scared, and I'm very, very curious to see how much damage Cobel can do. And it's just crazy. One episode, I think this is like the shortest episode of the entire show so far, was like 37 minutes or something like that. It made you 100% do a U-turn on Cobel, and you're 100% rooting for her. She was the villain in season 1, and then now you're rooting for her. Now finally, let's circle back to Devon. She calls one last time. Cobel picks up. And remember, we were talking before, like this is a risky move for her to call Cobel. But now we know Cobel is on our side. And it just makes things so much more interesting. She asks Devon to put Mark on the phone and says, tell me everything. And the episode ends. This got me excited, dude. Now you have Cobel and Mark on the same team. You got the Innies and Cobel on the same team. They all have a vendetta against Lumon. So now it's not just the Innies versus the entire corporation, this entire huge cult. You have somebody who, as Ragabi said, a Lumon soldier through and through. You have somebody from the inside who is born and brought up in it from the inside against you. That's scary. Especially one who's as smart as Cobel now we know. I'm very excited to see the future of what's to come. I talked about this before, how I liked the show being very Innie-centric because it's much more immersive, and how I didn't like us looking at the problems from different perspectives because it kind of takes you out from that shared experience. But now, as the season went on, I'm liking it. And this episode was really cool, man. I really liked how we got a first-hand look at the ideology of Lumon and the Keir Egan, like the cult kind of stuff. I really liked delving into that lore. I thought that was really cool. But man, yeah, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What did you guys think about this episode? Where do you think things are going to go from here? Wherever it is, it's about to be insane. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.